British counter-terrorism police are investigating a stabbing attack on a London-bound passenger train Saturday evening. At least 10 people were hospitalized, 9 with life-threatening injuries. I want to bring you the press conference from the police. We'll listen in here.
My thoughts are with the family and friends of those who've been affected and those who are injured. At approximately 7:42 p.m. yesterday evening, there were calls to the police service in relation to multiple stabbings which took place on board a train service that departed Doncaster at 6:25 p.m. and was en route to London King's Cross Station. Officers immediately attended Huntington Station alongside paramedics, where armed police officers from Cambridgeshire Police boarded the train and arrested 2 people. Within 8 minutes of the 999 call being made, 2 men were brought into police custody, where they remain this morning. I can tell you that these are the first male, a 32-year-old male, a black British national, and a 35-year-old man, a British national of Caribbean descent. They were both arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. Both were born in the United Kingdom. As stated, they remain this morning in separate police stations for questioning. 10 people were taken to hospital by ambulance, and another person self-presented later that evening. While 9 were initially believed to have life-threatening injuries, following assessment and treatment, 4, thankful to say, have been discharged. However, 2 patients remain in a life-threatening condition. British Transport Police declared a major incident yesterday, and counter-terrorism policing were initially supporting our investigation. However, at this stage, there is nothing to suggest that this is a terrorist incident. This is a British Transport Police investigation, and we continue to work to establish at pace the full circumstances and the motivations that have led to this incident. At this early stage, it would not be appropriate to speculate on the cause of this incident. As you can see, the station this morning remains closed. However, we expect trains to be passing through the station this morning. Passengers will see a high visibility presence of police officers at stations and on trains throughout today, up and down the transport network. Our officers are there to reassure the public and to address any concerns they may have. I'd like to thank the public personally for their patience and their cooperation. Yesterday evening, which has already greatly assisted our investigation through the help the public have tendered, as well as the multi-agency response partners from colleagues in other blue light services. I'd like to extend my thanks to our colleagues within Cambridgeshire Police, the East of England Ambulance Service, Cambridgeshire Fire and Rescue Service, and counter-terrorism policing. And finally, I'd like to appeal for anyone that's watching who has information connected to yesterday's incident, however big or small you feel that may be, that has not yet spoken to police, to make contact. You can do so by texting the British Transport Police on 61016, that's 61016, quoting reference 663 of the 1st of November 2025. Thank you very much.
Were there suspects known to the police?
I won't be taking any more questions, but thank you very much.
Did they get some police work?
All right, we were listening there to the Superintendent of British Transport Police in the wake of that stabbing on a London-bound train. He said that there were 2 men taken into custody. We got some more details, a 32 and a 35-year-old man, both British-born. He gave an update on the injuries, now 2 considered life-threatening, and he said there was nothing so far to indicate terrorism. I want to get more now from our correspondent who is with us here. Nick, what did you make of what was said? What did you take from it?
I think this is what we were expecting. The British police to very quickly try to tamp down any speculation, if it was wrongful, about connections to possibility of terrorism. And also, as we've seen them do many times in attacks over the past year and a half, through lessons learned, that they announce very clearly there the details of the people that they arrested. One 32-year-old man whom the officer described as being black, a British national, the other a 35-year-old British national descent, of Caribbean descent. He said both born in the UK. That's really become a sort of an MO of the police to put a stamp on this and say this is who we believe the alleged attackers are. So stop speculating about who they are. That's very clear. And also very clearly saying, although the counterterrorism police were involved at an early stage, saying that there's no indication at this point to indicate that this is counterterrorism related. But the short nature of the press conference there, the details only, the no questions, I think, again, is an effort to just sort of provide some information, not get into the realm of speculation, because the police, they're not giving yet an indication of why these two men, or one of these two men, actually perpetrated this attack. Interesting, he said that both men were held at different police stations. That also sort of standard procedure to make sure that there's no way that the two people who are now being questioned can share and swap stories. So sort of two tracks of investigation going on independently into their accounts of what happened and what additional details the police may learn from their social media backgrounds, their events through the day prior to the attack, all of those things. But it was quite a short press conference, only a few details, and of course, as you say, a recap now on the number of casualties. Initially 10 injured reported, 9 reported with life-threatening injuries. 4 people, he said, now been, thankfully, he said, discharged from hospital, and only 2 remaining in life-threatening condition. Very serious in of itself, of course.
Yeah. Nick Robertson, really appreciate you bringing us the latest there. Now, for more perspective on this, we're joined from London by Dal Babu, a former Chief Superintendent for the Metropolitan Police. Thank you so much for being here with us. You commanded firearm operations for the Met Police for many years. When officers stormed that train last night and faced a suspect with a knife, I mean, give us an idea of what would have been going through their minds in those critical moments.
Yeah, so this is a train that was travelling from the north of England to London. During the journey, it became clear that there were 2 suspects. One we definitely know was armed with a knife, who was randomly stabbing people. We know that people had really horrific injuries. 9 of them are life-threatening of the 10. We know the suspects have been detained. In Britain, we have very, very strong laws against gun ownership. So that means that the weapon of choice for people when they're wanting to cause harm is often a knife. If you can imagine if guns were freely available in this country and somebody had a gun and was marauding through a train, the injuries would have been much more horrific and much more in number. So the knife attack is a challenge that this country has to face. The police are not routinely armed, but armed officers did attend the scene. The train was pulled into an unscheduled stop, which allowed the passengers to disembark and then the police to deal with the suspects. So, as we understand it at the moment, we went for a police conference just to update us. As we understand it, 10 people have been injured, 9 seriously, and we have 2 suspects detained.
Mm-hmm. And counter-terrorism police are involved with this investigation. I mean, what does that tell us about what they're looking at this stage of the investigation?
I think it would be probably too much to read into it that this is a terrorist incident at this stage. I think counter-terrorism police are very well resourced in this country, so they'd be assisting in the investigation. But the primacy is that on trains, British Transport Police have the lead, and they'll be responsible for investigating this matter. The incident happened within Cambridgeshire, and we have 43 forces across the country. Cambridgeshire is one of those forces, so their officers attended the scene before British Transport Police officers. So it'll be a combined effort by Cambridgeshire Police and British Transport Police.
And what will those investigators be focusing on right now in sort of these first crucial hours after this attack?
Yeah, so it'll be about maintaining the crime scene, which is the train. That will cause huge amounts of disruption on the rail network. They'll be securing the platform area where the suspects were detained, and they'll want to focus on getting as much CCTV images from the train, from the surrounding areas. They'll be interrogating information on the 2 suspects that have been detained, and they'll get ready to start interviewing them. With a view for preparing a case for the Crown Prosecution Service to make a decision. So this is much more slow time. I think the difficulty we have at the moment is responsible news agencies will check information before they share it, but on social media it's a bit like the Wild West. People have got all kinds of conspiracy theories. People have no thoughts to the loved ones of people who are injured, and the danger is people are speculating depending on what their own individual echo chamber consists of, and I think that's not very helpful. So I think we need to rely on the police, rely on responsible news agencies to share the information, and then look at how we move forward.
Yeah, and we certainly don't want to speculate. The police are scheduled to give an update in the coming hour, and we'll bring that to our viewers when it happens. In the meantime, I want to broaden this out a little bit more. I mean, this happened on a packed commuter train. From a security perspective, I mean, how vulnerable are trains to this kind of attack, and what more can be done to protect people, do you think?
Well, I think in many ways this was incredibly good coordination by British Transport Police, the railway companies. A lot of the railways are privately owned, and so it's coordination between the railway company, British Transport Police, and Cambridgeshire Police. The train did an unscheduled stop in Huntington, which is an area within Cambridgeshire. Wasn't due to stop there, so you had pretty good coordination. Although, having said that, just recall that in all the tabletop exercises I did involving sort of armed incidents, we never had a discussion around an incident within a train. So this is a very unusual situation. There's a huge amount of interest in the UK around this from the Prime Minister, the Home Secretary, and most of us who travel on trains will be worried around how something like this could happen. So I'm sure there'll be a review of security and advice and guidance that will be given to people, because when you're on a train, traveling at 60, 70 miles an hour in a confined space, and when somebody decides to carry out an attack, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, and trains so central to transportation in the UK. Dal Babu, former Chief Superintendent for the Metropolitan Police, thank you so much for speaking with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Take care.